Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about ways in which you can become a more radiant and magnetic woman. When we are locked into our own self-worth, that's when we can become radiant and magnetic in all areas of our life. So it doesn't matter if you're wanting to magnetize or have something physical like a car or a house, or a situation like a relationship or a new job, a career, or whether it's a feeling that you want to magnetize, such as feeling more abundant or feeling more resilient. Now, when I think about being radiant or being magnetic, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the ability to experience pleasure. So this is such a deep and sensitive topic, and as I always say in my videos, the pleasure that I'm speaking of here is sensual pleasure. It can be sexual pleasure too, but it starts with sensual pleasure. And so often we don't always get the skills, we don't always get taught how to be fully in a pleasurable experience with our senses in the body. Now, internally, you might experience some resistance to having pleasure, like you feel that you don't deserve it, or you feel that there's simply not time, you've got other responsibilities to take care of. And something else that I also see with my clients is that they sometimes see pleasure as inconvenient. I can experience pleasure now, I can do something that I enjoy and that really fulfills all my senses, but then I've got to clean up afterwards. I've got to take time out of my day, which is going to make it more difficult for me to get to all of the things on my to-do list, or whatever the case may be. So pleasure becomes inconvenience. It becomes like a task that I need to tick off. And really the thing that we need to understand about experiencing pleasure is that that is our feminine birthright. Okay? If we really want to deepen into our feminine energy to access that feminine flow, then experiencing pleasure is one of the doorways into that. So you can find pockets in your day that you can take a pleasure break. That's something that I've started doing recently, and it's really wonderful. So I learned it from Bonnie Bliss, who's a pleasure expert, and she's one of my mentors. And that is like throughout your day, just pause for a moment and do something pleasurable for yourself. So it can either be feeling into your body, feeling into the muscles and just moving your body around a bit. It can be making yourself a cup of tea with intention, so bringing some mindfulness into that, but then allowing yourself to experience it through the senses. It could be just gently giving yourself a hand massage or a foot massage. So really looking for ways throughout the day to increase the pleasure that you are having. And what you're going to find is this will begin to build your pleasure capacity, so that if you're experiencing these barriers and resistance because it's inconvenient, or it takes up too much of your time, or you feel that you should first do all of the things that are required from you, first finish all of your responsibilities before you can relax into experiencing something pleasurable, or relax into doing something that you really enjoy. When you begin to take these daily pleasure breaks, it's going to increase your capacity, and it's going to reduce those barriers. It's going to reduce the resistance. Okay, so that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about being a radiant and a magnetic woman, is allowing yourself to experience that pleasure, and to let that pleasure then flow out into all other areas of your life. The second thing that I think is going to be so helpful for you if you want to start building your radiance and magnetism is to learn that your triggers are gifts. Begin to view your triggers as doorways into deepening into the relationship with yourself. So for us to be truly radiant and magnetic, and to have that full life experience and step into our feminine flow, we have to be connected to our whole selves. We have to connect really into the depths of who we are. And often we don't like experiencing those undesirable sensations, those undesirable feelings, but those are actually the key to unlocking your radiance. It's the key to unlocking your confidence, so that you can show up in your most potent, powerful, most feminine expression of yourself. So the third thing that I think is going to be so helpful is learning to uphold your boundaries. Now, boundaries here, I'm speaking both of emotional boundaries and our mental boundaries. We really struggle sometimes to uphold those boundaries, again, because of the conditioning, because of our cultural situation, and also because of the way that we see ourselves. So your own self-worth, your level of self-love, your ability to be intimate with your own feelings and your own experiences is going to determine your ability to uphold boundaries. And often what happens with boundaries is if we're not able to uphold them, we fluctuate between two ends. So you either have your boundaries are leaky, where you just give in and you overgive and you sacrifice yourself for at the cost of, or on the other hand, you're very rigid in your boundaries and you stonewall and you don't let anyone in. But then at the same time, as much as you don't let anyone in, as much as you don't allow any intimacy in, you also don't allow any love and intimacy to go out. Now, one more thing that comes to my mind, if I imagine a radiant and magnetic woman, what comes to mind is that they feel very safe in their bodies. So there are so many things that cause us to not feel safe in our bodies, through growing up, again, through our culture, through situations and events that might have happened to us. And in order for us to be able to attract into our lives that what we want, whether it's a relationship, a healthy relationship where there's good communication and where you feel truly fulfilled, or whether it's a career path or any kind of life situation where you feel honored, where you're respected, where you are able to really show up as your true self and be loved, you need to be able to feel safe in your own body first. And there are a few ways that you can begin to do this. Obviously, this is one of the things that I work a lot with my clients, but really for you to begin to venture into feeling safe in the body, to landing into the body, I think what will be helpful for you are things like working on kindness and compassion towards yourself. So really beginning to re-parent yourself. This is something that I spoke about in a video around self-worth. So I'm going to link that video for you down in the description below. You can go take a look at that. And something else that I want to add to this is also, in order for us to really fully embrace who we are so that we can be confident and radiant, one of the things that we start with is by allowing and accepting all of us. Okay, so this is where some shadow work is going to be really helpful for you, where you can begin to integrate those shameful parts of ourselves that we suppress. I always speak a lot about the amount of energy that it requires to hide those undesirable aspects of ourselves. So when you start working with integrating all of these aspects of yourself, when you start bringing those shadows into the light through inner child work or through shadow work or through embodiment practices, what's going to happen is you're freeing up this life force energy. And then you can begin to direct this feminine flow into being more radiant, into being more magnetic. And actually, I'm saying that wrong. You don't have to even direct it into being that. You're going to become that. It is going to be a natural result of freeing up these inner tensions that we carry inside. So the bottom line that I want to share with you is that all of us have this ability. We all have this feminine flow, this feminine freedom, this feminine frequency inside of us. We all can be radiant and magnetic and confident and have those situations and peoples and feelings in our lives that we really want. And we can begin to do that by creating that deep, intimate connection with ourselves, by being able to uphold our boundaries, by working with our triggers and allowing that to kind of guide us into what needs to be seen, what part of me needs to be heard, and how can I honor myself in that. So I'd love to know how this video landed for you. let me know in the comments below. Share your thoughts. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, and then I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.